Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the E.N.G. Media Podcast. We have a very exciting guest, Ioanna with Dextego. For those of you just joining the podcast, I am Christian Gannon, the co-founder of E.N.G. Media, and we specialize in helping software and tech companies scale their revenue. So if you want to learn how to take your software tech business to the next level, make sure to stick around. So let's get right into it. I understand Dextego is transforming sales enablement by moving beyond basic automation to intelligent AI-powered coaching. Your platform integrates with tools like CRM and calendars to deliver real-time, personalized guidance, helping sales team build emotional intelligence, master key skills, and close deals faster. By embedding AI into daily workflows, Dextego boosts performance, shortens wrap time, and improves win rates, all while freeing teams to focus on high-value conversations. Could you share more about your business, the services you offer, and your role within it?
Absolutely, Christian. I think you already gave a very good high-level description, but I'll take you a step back on why Dextego was created. Myself, actually, have spent the last 6 years very much focused on enablement and talent development. And prior to founding Dextego, I worked at another AI sales startup that focused on lead generation, where I realized that a lot of the sales training historically has been focused on the technical side of things, like how do we add a deal in pipeline, how do we move it forward, and here's your script, here's the list you need to call, etc. Yet the most important skill in sales is influence, right? I have to influence you enough in a positive way, and influence historically has been considered a negative word because of manipulation, but I truly think sales is about influencing others and getting them out of their comfort zone, outside of the status quo, so that they actually change and improve the way they do business. So when we realize that there is a big gap in soft skills development within sales, and AI allows us to actually do it in a very personalized way at scale, it was a no-brainer that we had to create Dextego. And the way it works is it's basically a safe space for sellers to prepare for upcoming calls, so they don't have to practice in front of the client and get insights on who they're about to meet, on areas like their disc profile, communication style, how to approach them. Because yes, you need to know your product and service and what you sell, but the how you communicate it is more important, especially in today's world. So in short, there's 3 AI coaches behind the scenes, where one focuses on role play, one focuses on being your general sales leader, because it's sales coach tailored to your company's best practices and go to market. So if you have a question like, how do I negotiate a deal? What case study can I bring in to close this deal? Things like that, you can go to it. And lastly, Esther, that's the motivational coach. So you, as a founder, you might know yourself, sales is a game of numbers, but it's also a game of resilience. And a lot of times, managers don't have the time to coach you on the mindset side of things. So that people just burn out. And now with Dextego, they're able to go and vent and, get the motivation they need to show up every day. So last point I'll make is it's trained by human sales experts. We're a team of sales leaders, enablement leaders, and learning leaders, trying to just help sales teams get a better name.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And I think there's a lot of insight in what you shared, not only about your platform, but just in sales in general about the mindset. I think that's a huge part. And I'd love to touch on that with you because I know that you have a huge background in sales. I also was in sales for a while too. And as a founder, as you said, I also have to do founder led sales. But that mindset is something that is really hard, I think, for a lot of people. And how did you really tackle that in your career?
Yeah, so I've been primarily in sales enablement, not sales per se, but also during founder sales, I've realized that what we have going on for us as founders is the knowledge of the market, right? You create a product because you understand there is a gap somewhere, you have expertise, so it's easier for you to act as a consultant, right? What we call consultative sales. And I think when you start hiring sellers, you get to see what we say commission breath, right? They're hungry, they come out salesy because they know they have to hit their quota. And so one thing is how much the company is enabling that seller to not feel that pressure, because there is good inbound coming in, you take them to events, there is opportunities to get these lead sources. So that's one, like how the company is structured. And the other is how you reward them, right? When you know you're in a stage where there's no leads coming and the emphasis on top of funnel, you can't put that huge pressure on closed won. But you can put quotas and you can make it rewarding if they create that top of funnel. So to me, the way we structure sales teams is very broken too. It's not just the coaching. And I think it's extremely hard because you get the top performer, right? Someone that will be hitting quota, and instead of maintaining that momentum and keeping them happy and engaged in the company, what do? You give them more, higher quota, higher quota, higher quota, and then they burn out. So I think I've tried to see things from like a third party view, right? Because of course you have that pressure, you have to keep things going and the lights on and all that, but you have to be realistic on what can be done. And it's a very different situation if we're talking about a VC-backed company versus an agency versus a small business, different rhythms. So understanding the context and who you're dealing with, because people also learn differently. And you see that even in sports, right? Some people want a coach that is mean and rough and yells at them. Others want encouragement. So you can't take it as a one-size-fits-all. Like you really have to see who's that seller in your team, how they get incentivized internally and externally, and create a different structure every time.
That's awesome. And I couldn't agree more. I think the structure has a lot to do with performance. And from my career in sales and previous sales jobs that I've had, I think that's affected performance, not only for me, but people on our team. And if it's not structured correctly, it can really impact the team. And as you said, I think it's this kind of notion in sales that every time that you close one or you have a higher performer, it's like, okay, well, they can do more because they already did this. And it's like, okay, well, I called 400 people on that lead list today. So now to meet quota, I'm going to have to call double that and then still be in the same headspace as I was on call one. And that seems like an impossible task, right?
It is, but it's all human, right? It's that greed and the toxic greed, I should say, that has created this. It's like a toxic environment, and I truly think it's time to change that. It's not sustainable whatsoever.
Definitely. And I couldn't agree more. And that kind of brings me into my next question about this sales environment. What kind of trends are you seeing in sales tech and even more, maybe specifically AI sales tech?
Mm-hmm. Definitely, I see the fact that there's so many tools available that people have the analysis paralysis kind of reaction to the market. I think on the one hand, they're really looking for that one tool that will solve everything. That just doesn't exist because it's not realistic. And they can't necessarily easily pinpoint where they need that help. It's like, our numbers are down, please help us. It's very hard for people to understand unless the organization has enough data and metrics to back that argument up and say, okay, our issue is we're not qualifying well, our issue is we're not targeting the right ICP, or whatever the case might be. For the most part, I think sales leaders just don't get enough time in their tenure to be able to get to those results. Because on average today, a CRO has 18 months. They need to go in, ramp themselves up, understand where the issues are, find solutions, and see results. It's just, again, not logical. So they go in, they try to do a bunch of different experiments at the same time, and there's not really a thorough discussion around what initiatives are we trying to do. Because yes, they might agree, but then they have to align RevOps and enablement and train the reps, etc., as business still happens. So when a company goes again and again through that cycle, something is broken in the process. And to me, sometimes it's a miracle how big companies still make it work when you see that chaos behind the scenes. So I'll say this is an overall issue I'm seeing, but now more in terms of how they adopt AI. I see definitely a huge adoption of recording tools, right? But with that comes a misconception that this is coaching. Because you record a call and you get a summary and a few bullet points after, that doesn't mean you coached anyone on anything. And it's actually after the fact, right? So it's too late. Today, because leads are so expensive, right? Like it's so hard to get in front of the right audience. you can't afford to mess it up. So all that coaching needs to happen before someone jumps on a call. And I think that's where a lot of companies are missing out on the opportunity of AI. And the last thing, I mean, huge adoption of AI SDRs that have unfortunately bombarded the market and have destroyed lead generation, if not done right. So with that came a little bit, I think, of an increase of in-person events lately in sales. Like people are out trying to meet prospects in trade shows and events, have that human, one-to-one connection. These I would say high level across the board, like not taking into account the industry and company size.
Definitely, and I couldn't agree more. And we specialize in marketing for software and tech companies. And it almost feels like we made a full circle
Yeah,
almost in the
yeah.
sales, and the sense of that conferences and events were popular 15, 20 years ago. And now we've gone full circle back to making a point of being at conferences and events because people can't sort through their email anymore. Half their email is spam, or half the phone calls, or more than half the phone calls they're getting are sales calls. So it's kind of become this thing of I'm just going to ignore all of it, and the only people I'm going to talk to are in person when I can actually trust this person, and it's not just kind of out of the blue, right? And that cold outreach is slowly getting harder and harder, and as you said, way more expensive to do just because of this notion, I would say.
And you see it like with fashion. I mean, I have a fashion background, so I always go back to these examples, but it's trends, like it's seasons. So, there was a point where everybody was doing webinars, and they worked. But then everybody copy pasted the same playbook, and then they stopped working. And that's the thing. Like, people, us too, are trying to do podcasts. Like, there's always something new. So there's never a playbook. That's kind of my conclusion. Every company needs to figure out which channels work, and I'm adamant about the fact that it can't just be one. I don't think today there's a business that can sustain itself only with one channel. Maybe 10 years ago, like if you only had channel partners, let's say. But I think nowadays you need to do a lot, and on top of that, the founder, that CEO, needs to do good personal branding, in order, to your point, to show that human aspect, and people can connect with who is behind that company, not just the product they sell.
Definitely. And I think that's a huge trend. And we both see it every day on LinkedIn that founder led content, founder led branding is huge right now, especially showing up as a leader and not an AI post that's generated by chat, when everyone can kind of tell at this point from reading so many on
Yes.
LinkedIn that it is not original, it's not good copy, it's just kind of junk, right? And unfortunately, that's kind of the side we're living in. And the people that are doing it well, I think, are succeeding pretty well in it. And the people that are doing it poor, it's not getting traction, as you would kind of think.
Yeah, however, it's unfortunate that the people that do go viral sometimes do it because they have that extreme opinion. And that was also a trend at some point, like people following people that just are not afraid of saying something they think,
100%.
not because it's right or whatever, just
Right.
because it's polarizing. And it's hard. I think I see now, talking to a lot of people also, that overthink, back to that analysis paralysis, what to say, how to say. It has
Mhm.
taken us to that point where people are just not sharing really because they're afraid that others will come at them in the comments, and they just make posts, so that they're relevant, yet they're not creating that unique point of view. So it's becoming also harder for people to find their voice on social media. And I think that gets internalized a lot. Like people have doubts, imposter syndrome, all of that. And I'm saying it because recently, actually, I'm in process of publishing a book, and I'm interviewing CEOs and
Mhm.
asking them about, their challenges and risks, and they all talked a lot about those doubts, no matter how successful they are. So imagine how bigger these thoughts are for people that are entry level, mid level.
Definitely, 100%. And I could definitely see that. And I think that's a good point that you brought up on LinkedIn is that a lot of people, and I'm not going to name any names, just make claims or say something completely off base to get the traction, but not necessarily because they believe in it or because it's necessarily true either. Like an example might be in software and tech is a lot of people say build the product and they will come, which me and you both know that that could be further from the truth
Yep.
in the sense of that a good go to market is really what is the differentiator in pretty much any industry, especially B2B. But yeah, I think you touched on a lot of great points. And what right now in this landscape for Dextego specifically is making it easier or harder to operate in, would you say?
Yes, it's very interesting for us because when we first launched, we were actually a little different. I mean, we were focused more on coaching for young managers, not necessarily sales related, and we're targeting HR. But back then, it was also almost too early in the market. Like people were yet not fully into AI, and they were afraid of it, and it was COVID, and now, the good part is because we did all that work early before pivoting to sales enablement, all these people are coming back because they knew us first, right? So, although there's a lot more tools out there now, they remember us and the brand and the conversation. So, they're coming back saying, hey, we now realize there is this need. So, on the one hand, there is inbound because of the work we put in earlier. But then on the outbound side, it is very hard. So, I do see that referrals go a long way, even at this stage. Like, I know it's not the most thing, like this is thing to scale referrals, but they can have the biggest win rates. So that's what I see. Like we're trying to focus on maybe less volume but higher conversions rather than the opposite. Back to what we're saying with the cold call Sue. It's not just about calling for 100 people. It's calling those that
Right.
you know will be likely to convert. And so I think now we have enough data to kind of know which channels work, which don't, which I think is the hardest part to do as a startup because you're trying everything all at once. And I definitely see that, yeah, personal brand. I mean, I've been active on LinkedIn mostly the last 3 years, and it's paying off now, but it's a long term play. So I always tell people, like, don't get discouraged. Like, it really won't happen in a week, 2 or 3 months. You have to swap continuously and build that network, even if they can't open a door or they're not the right fit today. They might be, years down the road. But this is the long-term thinking, and unfortunately, not everyone has it.
100%. And I couldn't agree more with you. I think the way that I look at the LinkedIn or even this podcast or anything that we do that's kind of a personal branding, not only for us, but for people that we interact with, it's you're planting the seed and you'll sow the seed and then you'll reap the rewards years from now because we're running a marathon, not a sprint. We don't want to be in business for
Exactly.
3 months. We want to be in business for 3 to 10 years, right? So I think looking at that view makes a huge difference.
It's just unfortunate that the environment doesn't really allow for people to have that mindset, right? Back to if you're a VC-backed company, there's so much pressure. So
Right.
founders like get that, but they don't really act on it in a day-to-day because of that pressure. So it has to change from the top. I think the whole system needs to allow for us to understand that, hey, it's customer first, it's brand is something you need to invest since day one. Make sure your clients are happy, make sure people know about you, and then you start to see what works on the go-to-market side.
Definitely. And kind of on that side, I know you mentioned referrals a little bit, but how are you guys currently reaching out and getting Dextego in front of the right decision makers? I know we talked about a little bit about LinkedIn and then referrals, but are there any other ways that you're kind of doing that?
Yes, I mean, a lot of ways. Social media for sure is number one. YouTube. I mean, we have 3 podcasts. We have the third one coming out soon, but on different audiences, different topics, all to build sales thought leadership. So one is called Codes to Influence. Another is the Dextego Playbook Show, where we focus more on AI plays. Another one, we're focused more on the background of the people. It's behind the revenue. So trying to also not just focus on one specific persona, but cast a wider net on the brand side. And then outreach is much more specific, using intent data and lookalikes a lot, like from existing clients. LinkedIn is, again, more top of funnel discussions based on what we see on someone's profile. We do newsletters to engage the community and keep them posted on also the product, and try to do more like product marketing there. And then events. So we also, outside of attending others' events, we have our own. We have an annual Dextego Summit where we bring in speakers and also clients to share how to leverage Dextego. So these are, I would say, on top of my head, the main ways we go to market today. And then the strategic partnerships are both on the tech side, but also go-to-market consultants and coaches who don't have any tech in their process or offerings and want to incorporate us to differentiate themselves and increase revenue.
That's awesome. And I think you just explained like a perfect omni-channel marketing system, right? In the sense of that on all angles, if anyone ever wanted to see who you are and what you do, you have it covered, right? And I did check out some of the podcasts beforehand and they looked really good. And I actually took some pieces for what I'm leading sales. So thank you for those. And kind of more on the personal side, what does your typical day-to-day look like as a CEO?
Well, where do I start? It's
Right.
as I'm sure yours too, but I try to have some sort of structure where mornings are more product related and just stand-ups, check-ins with the team. I block out time for my own outreach and just out emails. I have then client calls, any partner calls, so more go-to-market related things. And then, it could be investors, advisory boards, things that are not like on a day-to-day always, but depending on the week. And generally, I try to also block personal time, like in the evening, afternoon, to relax before I keep working, because it's definitely not a 9 to 5 thing. It's much more than that. But yeah, I try to also block time more on a monthly basis. So yeah, I am pretty organized, I would say, because I was a chief of staff before. I still have that mentality, hey, we need to block things in the calendar or else they'll never happen. But sometimes it's very impromptu, right? Like you get a call, you need to make sure something happens, customer success. So it really differs every season. Like sometimes we have a big launch, some focused on that. Some others is just trying to find great guests for the podcast.
100%. And something that you mentioned that I didn't want to let go unnoticed was the breaks that you book into your calendar. I think sometimes when we go through social media or we talk with other founders, this 12 to 16-hour workday somewhat gets glamorized, unfortunately. And that is the reality for a lot of us. I know both of us probably work somewhat around those hours, but like for something that I posted on LinkedIn recently, it was talking about power naps. Like that's something for me that switching between my morning cycle and the things that I work on in the morning and the afternoon is like that 20-30 minutes is like game changing. And I don't think it gets talked about enough in the sense of if you can let your brain kind of rest and relax and come back to it, you come back a lot fresher and a lot more motivated to go through the rest of the day instead of getting to 3-4 o'clock and you're kind of draining and you're just dragging it. It's like, am I really being as effective as I could be in the task that as a CEO or a founder, this relies on me to get done, right? So do I want to come in and do it half baked, right? Compared to if I can get fresh and find a way. And maybe that power nap's not the answer for everyone, but having something similar, I think.
That's huge. I mean, sleep is very important for me too. And I think you just need to be aware of your body. Like, I know when I'm less productive, more productive. And if I feel like, I'm about to have a headache, I'm not going to be in front of the computer for the next 2 hours. I'll try to take some time off, come back later. But you need to really be, I think, present and check in with yourself constantly. Because to me, the most challenging thing, I believe, is the context switching, right? From call to call. Your head is spinning left and right on different dimensions constantly. So unless you take that 1 minute break to see, okay, where am I right now? Like, what's going on in my head? Am I ready for the next call? It's hard because you keep going and then at the end of the day, you're just dead.
Right, 100%. And I think it's the question I like to ask myself. If I'm not present with myself, how can I be present with others, right? How can I get on a podcast like with you today and be fully present with you if I'm not even present with myself 15 minutes before we start?
Exactly.
And I think it's impossible. And kind of moving to my next question, when you think about success today, what metrics really matter to you and your team?
Definitely on the product side is adoption, right? Like we
Hmm.
really want to make sure this is something that can be built into one's daily routine.
Of course.
Coaching needs to happen in the flow of work and it needs to be sticky, otherwise there won't be an impact. And also on the product is more about, features, velocity, like how often do we release something new. On the sales side, it's of course conversions and revenue. Are we hitting our metrics, our goals quarterly, yearly? If not,
Of course.
why? Let's go back and see what's off. Is it the targeting? Is it the pitch? The pitch evolves constantly too as an early stage company. Messaging evolves all the time. Website, everything is constant upgrade and upgrade. Like I look back 2 years ago in our first decks and I'm like, oh my God, who wrote that? Like how
Right.
I didn't think any better back then. But you
Hmm.
don't know, like you don't have all the dots connected. You don't have the feedback from the market and the customer. So it's okay.
Right.
And I think you need to build time for that too, like reflection. Why are we switching it? Let's think about it. It's not just okay, do it to do it. Um, so yeah, and then on the marketing, of course, depending on the collateral, like is it we're looking for downloads, is it for clicks, is it for us it's also freemium conversions, like how many people go to the freemium, how many become paying clients, where they drop off, things like that.
Of course. And kind of looking ahead, what's next for you guys in the next 6 to 12 months? Are there any big product features or kind of launches on the roadmap?
Yeah, in fact, this week we're testing two things we will release, probably the next one. But they also are part of freemium and are quick ways for you to get an influence score, which is one of our proprietary scores. So in short, you'll be able to upload a call recording you had and see quickly how much influence you had, meaning your empathy, probing questions, objection handling, and gravitas. And then if you want to develop it, you go into Dextego and work with your AI coaches. And then the other one, it's a quick like role play you can do for an upcoming call. So you put the person you're speaking to, we're going to give you insights on them. We can role play, get the scorecard. And I'm excited because you realize that today it's all about value, right? It's about free value. A company needs to really win that client's trust and interest. So, of course, it's harder on the company and you need to put resources, but it's exciting. I really want to help people. I really am passionate about what we do. So, I'm excited for more and more people to test it. And if you can reduce that barrier to entry by doing it for free for a limited time or for a limited scope, I think it's great. And it will give us a lot of feedback on what we need to improve the rest of the product roadmap. So that's on the product, and then the last podcast I mentioned we're doing will be launched also in the next couple of weeks. So excited for all of these. And then October, most likely we're doing our next in-person event.
That's awesome. It sounds like you guys have a lot of stuff on the roadmap, and I really was interested in what you were talking about and giving a scorecard for a sales call. That sounds super interesting to
Yes.
me. And I've actually gone with chat and like gone through like rehearsing, but obviously I don't get a score with chat or it's not human enough to give me a score. And so I might actually try out the freemium version just for
Yeah, I'll
myself,
send it to
and
you.
I'll have to post it on LinkedIn and let my followers know how it goes so that they can follow along too.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm very excited for you to test it. Since you've been in sales, you'll be the perfect person to tell me if it was accurate.
Definitely. And kind of leading to my last question, it's a fun one, but a tough one. Hypothetically, if you had a magic wand and could solve just one problem within the business, what would that be?
More like long term or today?
Either or
Well,
both, if you want to say
okay.
both, if you have two answers.
I mean, I think it's always about resources, right? Like, I would want to double the size of our engineering team, and I'm also looking for a new customer success manager. So my head today is mostly on staffing, like more finding talent side. Um, Long term, I want to make a marketplace of different AI coaches that you can choose a la carte based on your interests and your skills, not just like go in and have that default type of platform. So it's really, really personalized for each person. I think that's the future of learning. It's just personalized, human centric. And for that to happen, that means that it's going to be like Siri, like your day to day partner in crime, like helping you go through your problems. And that means that the AI needs to really sound like someone that gets you and understands you. And I think we're getting there. I mean, it's moving so fast. Um, that's kind of my magic wand with.
Of course. I think those are both great answers. And I think a lot of people would be in agreement with you that staffing is kind of tough right now just because of the available talent pool. And there's so many options. And I've been hearing across my network, like I posted a job and I have 500 applicants. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah,
So I could see how that could be tricky. And definitely with the AI part on the long-term roadmap, especially with how everything changes day to day. Seeing how that vision plays out. Maybe we have a vision now, but how it's going to play out a year or 2 years from now could look completely different depending on how tech kind of travels, right?
absolutely. How about you? What's your magic wand with?
I think my magic one would be to have two of me or three of me. In all honesty, I feel
Yes,
like a lot of days I'm jumping between hats, like you do as well, and having two or three of me to knock out a lot of stuff that has to get rolled over. I think that would be my magic one currently. Maybe in a
that would
month
be
from now,
perfect.
it might be different, and I might have to get some tips from you on how to manage that as a previous chief of staff. But
Oh,
thank you again for hopping on the podcast. I will leave the links to your website as well as your link in the description if you're okay with that.
absolutely.
And then I'll also put the podcast in there too because you were kind enough to hop on mine. And I highly recommend you check them out and the incredible things they're doing in this space. But other than that, thank you again for hopping on and sharing your insights today. And we will see you guys on the next podcast.